CBS News White House producer and reporter Olivia Rinaldi joins us now from Miami. So, Olivia, what more can you tell us about the Trump administration's suspension of certain legal immigration programs and who is expected to be impacted the most?
Yeah, Lindsay, it's good to be with you. This is a new action from the Trump administration blocking the expansion of certain parole programs, humanitarian parole programs that were started under the Biden administration. Now, what they would do is the Trump administration is directing officials to stop allowing migrants into the U.S. through these humanitarian programs. And if you are here under those humanitarian programs, you might be limited. Your visa might be limited as far as it being extended through those programs. So what this means is that people who came here through intense humanitarian crisis, think of like the war in Ukraine, the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. If you are coming here as a result of that through these humanitarian programs, one, if you are here, you might not have your visa extended. But two, if you're on your way, perhaps your appointments may be canceled or reevaluated. So important to note there. But what this really signifies is a clampdown from the Trump administration on not only illegal immigration to this country, but legal immigration as well.
And President Trump is there in Miami today, meeting with House Republicans for their annual policy retreat in Florida, taking place at his resort in Doral. What is on the agenda?
Yeah, we're back here in Florida at a different property today, down in Trump's property here in Doral, where he's hosting House Republicans, including Speaker Mike Johnson, where they'll be focused on Trump's legislative agenda, really what can get passed through Congress and what their main focus will be. We know from Trump's rally over the weekend that he's interested in no tax on tips. That policy is being central, really, to his tax agenda, which is something the House is going to have to pass as those 2017 Trump's tax cuts are expiring this year. So they're meeting today, having sort of conversations about what their priorities are. We know that Vice President J.D. Vance will be down here tomorrow to really extend those conversations. We should get a broader sense throughout the week of what their top priorities are going to be for Trump's legislative agenda.
CBS News has learned that the president is expected to sign several new executive orders affecting the military this week. What can you tell us?
Yeah, we're expecting 3 executive orders to be signed. The first being regarding transgender service in the military for transgender persons. Now, it's not a blanket ban like we saw during the first administration, but what this one does is reevaluate readiness, armed forces readiness, and whether or not transgender persons in the military serving impacts that readiness at all. That's the first executive order. The second being a ban on DEI policy throughout the Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, but also in the armed forces. This is similar to what we saw Trump do in the federal government last week during his first several days in office, really banning any diversity, equity, and inclusion measures throughout the federal government. But third would be to reinstate any service members who were perhaps discharged as a result of not receiving the COVID vaccine. That is something we saw happen throughout the early years of the Biden administration, discharging service members for not receiving their vaccine. There were about 8,000 service members who were discharged as a result of that policy. So Trump plans to sign an executive order saying that if they would like to return to the military, they can return back to service.
Olivia, I have a question. I don't know if we know this yet because we don't have the substance of the executive orders, but per the transgender troops and DEI, is he essentially eliminating the use of pronouns or pronouns other than maybe what somebody was born under, or do we still not know the extent?
That's a great question. We don't know the extent of it yet. We just do know that these are kind of the targets for the next week or so of executive orders. But that is a great question, whether or not pronouns are something they'll be focused on and removing. We know under the Biden administration that was something that was quite welcomed. People talking about their preferred pronouns in all forms of government, even in the armed forces. So something to watch out for sure.
Okay, Olivia Rinaldi, thank you so much.